Welcome to Empowermente, the headquarters of personal empowerment. Hola mis amores. Welcome to today's episode. Welcome to Empowermente. I am so happy that you're here. First of all, I want to give a life update. I've been holding off a few weeks because there's a lot that has been going on in the world, and I just wanted to be cognizant of the topics that I have talked about. And so, first update is that we are cat parents. We decided to get 2 kittens to have and foster and love and care for, and I'm super excited. Their names are Canela and in honor of my Canelito. If you followed me long enough, you know that Canelito was the love of my life and my soul kitty, and so I wanted to honor him. And then we also have another kitty, and his name is Silver because of his color. Honestly, I don't know if I'm sold with his name, but I think it's a cute name, and so I'm so excited to share that. And so if you start seeing him in my stories on Instagram, you know, my aunt is Soy Gina Moreno, you know, you'll get to see them. And another update in my personal life is that we have decided on the venue where we're gonna get married next year. So I'm so excited, y'all. I think one of the most important things to me when I think about getting married, at least like, you know, for the actual party, is the place, because I've always envisioned somewhere where it's very green, and I love lights, I love the green, I love flowers, I love nature. And so it was really important to me to choose a place with that idea and that vision in mind. I think we really liked another one of the places, but it just was like a regular ballroom, and it was beautiful and I loved it, but I was just like, I don't know if I'm willing to compromise on the fact that I wanted it to be in nature. And so we didn't compromise, and we ended up choosing the one that I liked. And so it's super exciting. If you have any wedding planning tips, let me know. Obviously, it's my first time planning a wedding. It's a lot, and honestly, I'm a little scared, but I feel a little bit better about it because the city that we chose is where we have family. And so I feel, you know, they have offered their support to us, and so I feel so much better about it because I know there's people who are gonna support me and support us, and much easier than being in a location where we have to travel constantly to. And so that just gives me a lot of peace of mind. What other updates that I have? Just living my best life in Phoenix. You know, it's 110 degrees at this point, probably. You know, I'm recording it a few weeks before, and right now it's like 102, 103. So then by the time you listen to this, it's probably going to be 110, which is not great. I feel like the rest of the country takes advantage of the summer, and this is where everybody goes out and they love it. I feel like here's the opposite. Most people don't want to go out because it is a freaking sauna outside. And if I've said this before, but I mean, this is my complaint about Phoenix. It's just like the weather in the summer is just so bad. So yeah, wish me luck with that. I already survived one summer, so I guess I can survive another one. I'm looking into taking ¿cómo se dice suero? Hydrating pills, because I get dehydrated really easy. Maybe it's the ADHD that I forget to drink water. But yeah, I really think I need to be at the top of my game with that. I'm also a huge fan of Salud. They are powdered IV powder electrolyte that has amazing flavors. This is not sponsored, by the way. I did get accepted into an ambassador program a few years ago, but I didn't end up completely following up with that. But I love them. You know, you know, if Salud wants to sponsor, I'll have all my saluds here. But yeah, those are some of the things that I'm doing to take care of myself. And so yeah, those are some of my life updates. For today's episode, I want to talk about business. And it's so interesting because when I thought about business before, I thought about multi-millionaires, you know, running these corporations, when so many of us run businesses, even in the smallest ways. You know, if you have another stream of income, then you have a business. You know, if you have a stream of income outside of your 9 to 5, then you have an income. And it's so interesting because I never really saw it like that. Even when I had a full-time job at Microsoft, I would just call them passion projects or side hustles without really knowing that I was creating different types of businesses, because I was inquiring costs and I was making money from them. And so I think that's the main requirement for a business. And so it's completely, now that I've been in the game for almost 2 years full time, and on top of that, before that I probably started 3 years before that, so probably like 5 years, I feel like I have a little bit of a different perspective. And if you're somebody who's getting started, or even if you're in the same ballpark, then you can maybe learn something from me. If you think you want to add something, make sure that you comment in the comments below. If you're on YouTube or even Spotify, you can comment now, because I want to know what are the things that you think are cool and enjoy about business. And I want to know the things that you didn't expect and that are not so cool, some of the cons, because it's been a huge learning experience for me. And I feel like I could do several of these episodes. Let me know if you like them. And especially because I have a lot of audience that has corporate jobs, and I have a lot of followers that are curious about what it's like to own a business. I feel like I haven't completely given everybody a full picture of it, because I'm busy trying to run it and trying to make money. You know, I'm trying to make it happen. And so it's so challenging to document it at the same time. But it is one of my goals that I have very present. So this is one of my first steps. So I hope that you get a lot of value in it. And again, there are things that I wish that I knew before I started, and just, you know, some insights that I really hope add value to your perspective. So let's get started with the cool things about starting a business. Number one is creative autonomy. When I talk to corporate people, I realize how great corporate can be. Corporate can be a place that is just very structured, and people are very structured. People are very in squares. And I feel like when you become an entrepreneur, especially a creative entrepreneur, you will have so many choices in the way that you execute. And it's up to you how you do it. Not that there's no rules, because there's always laws and things that you have to follow, but the spectrum of what you can do is much larger, which is amazing. And you have that autonomy to make it happen. You get to do it your way, with your colors, with your values, with your voice. And I've heard somebody said that the closest thing to having kids before having kids is owning a business. And I totally see that as true. All of it gets to feel like you. The second thing is that, I mean, it depends how you manage it, but I'm talking more specifically about collaborations and partnerships and the way that you work, is that there are no hierarchies. And let me explain what I mean. When you work in academia, when you work in corporate, when you work in nonprofit, there are very strict non-verbal or non-direct things that are just rules about that industry. Like, oh, if you do this type of service within nonprofit, then you're expected to get paid this much. Or if you are a social worker or like a therapist, then you are expected to charge this much, right? Like your services kind of have a cap into how much you can charge, because that's just like an industry known. And when you create your own business, and I'm talking specifically about services, like if you become a consultant, a coach, or somebody who's an expert in their industry and is selling their knowledge, intellectual property, coaching, things of that nature, you don't need to follow the rules of that industry in the same way. Like you become an outside person that gets to set their price as they wish, because the value that you provide is speaking for that price. And so I think that's something really interesting. Another thing about hierarchies is obviously that you don't have a manager. You don't have people trickling down telling you what the priorities for the business are, because you are the visionary. You're the one who decides what your priorities are, what the vision is. And I think that's really, really cool. There's no bureaucracy where you need to ask 10 people to get something done. So I really, really appreciate that. Number three is that you get to decide your structure. You get to decide your days. I mean, this is probably the number one perk that I enjoy about being an entrepreneur, is that you get the freedom of time to decide what you want to do with it. And you can decide that every other Friday you're not going to work. You can decide that Tuesdays are your days to do admin work. You can decide that Thursdays are the days that you provide your services. You can decide, you can decide your schedule and your business structure in whatever way that you want. And I think that is the coolest thing. For me, I've decided that Wednesdays are my coaching days. I get coached and I do coaching for my group program. Thursdays and Fridays are usually the days that I do one-on-one coaching, and Mondays and Tuesdays, I leave them to do my business, promotion, content creation, things of that nature. It's not super, strict, but I do try to follow it where certain days are for certain things, and it is really, really cool. I also think it's necessary for you to have reset days where you look back and you review your finances, or you do something that's going to take your business forward and be proactive. And I haven't been so great about it, but I am going to keep trying to do it. Number 4 is that possibilities are endless. A lot of the reason why people become entrepreneurs is because there is no cap to what you can do, to the income that you can make, to the things that you can create. Really, you are not restricted by somebody telling you what to do. And I think you can grow in any direction that you want with your business. And I think it is the coolest thing. I think it is the coolest thing that you are not limited to how much money you make. It's really up to you how you structure your business and how much you price your services to know how much you can make. And of course, even if you have a traditional business model where you have a brick and mortar, or you have physical products, you can choose to scale those. Obviously, there's other types of restriction like capital, for example, but there are a lot of creative ways that you can do it. I feel like every single one of these are both a pro and a con, and I'll go into the cons. But number 5 is that it's personal growth on steroids. When you are an entrepreneur, it is a ticket for the highest level of personal development. It is literally a mirror that you're going to go into, and you're going to see reflected everything that you are. So it is an advantage because you get to grow a lot and you get to fully explode your potential. It's something really cool about it. Okay, so here's some of the things to be careful of, something to be cautious about. Number 1 is that taxes are real. So it is a lot scarier to do taxes as an entrepreneur because there are so many transactions, at least for me, compared to when you are a W-2 employee, you just have a W-2, right? But there are so many more nuances depending on the type of business that you have. So it's important to be aware of the things that you are doing. And also, for everything that you do, you don't pay taxes up front, you pay taxes afterwards. So it's important to save that when you get paid. Every time you get paid, use the profit first method and actually save those taxes so that you're not dying at the end of the year. I also recommend having a bookkeeper. They're the person that really takes care of your books and makes sure that everything is categorized correctly so that you're not struggling again when you pay taxes. Number 2 is legal stuff. So I think the legal stuff is one of the scariest things of having a business, because when you are the owner, you are liable for the things that happen within your business. So you just have to be very, very careful when you're working with other people. Make sure that there are contracts in place that fully reflect the scope of what you're doing and that fully protect you. I think there are some things that are totally worth it to invest getting a lawyer in, whereas others you can get away with doing like templates and things like that. But really, at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're protected. I don't think I've been amazing at this lately, but I did have a membership where I had access to lawyers to review my contracts for content partnerships and public speaking. And so I think something like that is a really good thing that you should be doing. Another con is that there is no built-in structure. So as I mentioned, one of the pros was having the structure that you wanted. But since having a business usually doesn't have a built-in structure of what you're expected to do, it can quickly become terrifying. Like, there's so many different things that you can do that it becomes overwhelming, and sometimes you get even paralyzed. At least that happens to me. So you don't have a boss, you don't have deadlines, and you create your own system. So if you don't make sure that you're on top of it, it can go downhill very fast. Another con that is the same as a pro is that possibilities are endless. So I told you that you have no income cap and you don't have a restriction as to what types of services and products you can offer, but at the same time it's also a trap, especially as a multi-passionate person that wants to do so many things. I think it's very easily to get lost in it, and that is something that has definitely happened to me. So too many ideas can lead to burnout, or it can lead you to feel really lost and not have a good focus. And so just something just to be aware of if you're a multi-passionate person. Number 5 is validation hangover. When you have a job, you're constantly getting feedback from your boss, from peers, and from higher ups that you're doing well, right? Because the work that you're doing usually is for somebody. And if it's not them, it's your customers, right? You get feedback from your customers right away. Depending on the business that you're in, you're not always going to get that validation of what you're doing. And that can be challenging because you don't know if you're heading in the right direction. It can be disorienting when nobody claps for you, or if you have a project that has a long-term ROI. It can even cause you to lose motivation or lose self-confidence. So that's definitely something that's very challenging about entrepreneurship. You have to be delusional and have full blind faith in yourself that what you're doing is the right thing. So that is it, y'all. I wanted to make today's episode a little bit shorter, short and sweet, with hopefully lots of insights. I hope that you enjoyed it, and let me know if I missed anything and if I should do a part 2. Thank you so much for listening. Okay, so let's go ahead and review the cool things about business. 1, creative autonomy. 2, no hierarchies. 3, you decide the structure. 4, the possibilities are endless. And 5, personal growth on steroids. Things to be careful of, let's review. Taxes are real. 2, legal stuff matters. 3, there's no built-in structure. 4, the possibilities are endless, again. And 5, validation hangover. Yay! See you next week.